Oh, we have
And
Masen. Hello, Masen.
yeah, Mohsen is here. So
And
I
Ben
guess
Heckler.
it's a good idea for everyone, anyone who wants to introduce themselves to the group, and then we can start. And Madison is going to get the stage and talk about the ether, which is really interesting and exciting for everyone. I'm really interested in the ether, and yeah, I think it's a starting point for us. And I guess Adam, would you go first and introduce yourself?
Yeah, happy to. I'm the founder of BrightID, and yeah, I love all the integrations that are happening right now, and love what's happening in the decentralization universe. And I will pass it over to Superfizz if he wants to say something.
Hello, I am Superfizz. I am kind of an organizer of the ETH staker community, which is the Ethereum beacon chain staking kind of world. Um, I am a huge fan of what Mattison is doing at the ether.io, and I look forward to watching that platform grow and making it a bigger part of our lives. With that, I will pass to Derek.
What's up, everyone? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. I am Derek. I work with Mattison on the Ether, an awesome tool to for the Ethereum community to engage ideas and proposals. That's all I want to say now. I don't want to step on his toes. Happy to be here.
You want to pass it to someone else?
Yeah, sure. I'll pass it to I guess both guys next to me on my tile are have already introduced themselves. Carlos, I don't know who you are, man. So please
Sure.
enlighten me.
Hello, everyone. Carlos Mesa. Carlos Mesa. I work with BrightID. I'm a BrightID star. I help a lot with making connections with Spanish-speaking people, and I'm a crypto advocate since 2012. So I'm super happy to be here with you guys and learning a lot about the Ether. I really like the project. I just going to pass it to Sergey.
Yeah, my name is Sergey. I'm from Germany, and I'm also a Bright ID star. And basically the same as Mona as well. I'm in the space not as long as him, but I'm trying to help the community to get verified and use the apps involved. And I'm going to pass it to Philip.
Hey, I'm Philip Silva. Been around BrightID basically as long as it's existed. Big fan, working on it because I think it can solve a lot of huge problems and transform the world if we can actually get it right. Yeah. How about Ashraful?
Hello everyone, my name is Ashraful. I am from Bangladesh, and I help those who join from India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh. And I also help those people who are joining in the east side. So I try to my best for the verification party, and I will also support in Discord. Thank you. I pass the Mohsin.
Hello, everyone. I'm
Masen.
Mohsen. I'm one of the Bright ID developers, and I'm glad to be here and familiar with you. I pass it to Michael.
Hey
Which
guys.
Michael? I think, yeah, Michael Bauer. Yeah,
Our Michael.
our triple speeder, please.
Triple speeder.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I'm Michael, and yeah, I'm part of the Pride ID core team. I joined the team, I don't know, I think in May. And yeah, I'm developing mostly on the front end, but also other stuff, dep node packages and some backend stuff. And I think it's an awesome project. I'm really happy to be here. And yeah, I pass it on to the other Michael.
All right, hello everyone. I am Michael. Some of you may know me by Unvetica.eth. I'm one of the core moderators at the eStaker community. I do a lot of the web development, POAP designs, sort of a jack of all trades for the community there. Big fan of BrightID. Use it where I can. So I'm excited to be a part of the group here. I guess I'll just pass it over to, let's see here, to Joran. Did he go?
Hey everyone, I'm Joran. I am one of the BrightID stars. I am a crypto enthusiast, crypto evangelist, like always, trying to spread the good gospel of crypto in general. And I love what BrightID is doing. So yeah, that's why I'm sticking around here. And last but not least, I'll pass off to Mattison.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks so much, guys. My name is Mattison. I work with Derek on the Ether, which it's a debate platform for the Ethereum ecosystem, and I look forward to talking about it more.
Awesome. I guess everyone has gone, unless the Remy, Brandon, Bitsika, or Ben. If you want to introduce yourself, feel free. Otherwise, we can start listening to Mattison, and I'm really excited to listen and learn more.
Maybe I can introduce myself. I'm Remy. I've been involved in various crypto projects through the years. I've been involved with BrightID. I've been involved with the ETHStaker community. I've been involved with the Ether for a few weeks, I believe. So I'm very happy to hear from Mattison.
Yeah, Remy is one of our highest XP earners too. So legit on the Ether already. Earned a spot.
And he's one of the best contributors on the ETHStaker educator team. So
I'm kind of a part of the. I'm the center of this Venn diagram.
And Remy, I gotta say, today, dude, with that background and your new mic, like you look so professional.
Yeah.
you're looking the part of like the center of all the community right now.
There you go.
Okay, before we start, I'm going to let everyone know I'm going to send you private messages with your POAPs, so please claim it. If anyone is missing it, please let me know. Okay.
Sweet POAP.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if Brandon or Bitsika wanna introduce yourself. Otherwise, let's listen to Mattison.
Awesome. You just want me to kind of introduce the platform?
Please.
So we built the Ether with a couple problems that we wanted to address in mind. The first problem is I love talking about crypto. I love debating about the Ethereum ecosystem. I love learning more from other people through productive debate. I absolutely can't stand engaging people publicly on Twitter. And the reason why I can't stand it is I would say much more than 50% of the time, closer to probably 75 to 90% of the time, the debates on Twitter really devolve into really hateful or angry, really irrational, emotionally driven diatribes. And I think the reason for that is I've looked into this quite a bit. It's that type of content really gets people to check out that content. It's really Twitter optimizing their algorithms for generating or really showing off that type of content, since that would generate the most views, which eventually trickles down into ad spend for the company. So I was really frustrated with the debate process on Twitter. Both Derek and I were, and we tried to figure out what are some of the ways that we could create a new debate platform that really incentivizes and facilitates productive debate, productive conversations on what we care about most within the crypto ecosystem, which is Ethereum. So that's how we approached the problem. And then we ended up posting something on the Ethereum Magicians Forum, basically talking about how Ethereum also has some issues regarding their social governance. There's not a really great place in the Ethereum community for people to debate about what they think should happen with the protocol. For example, when ProgPow came up, that was a very controversial issue. People felt like their voices weren't heard, and there wasn't a good way to track the sentiment on if people wanted ProgPow or didn't want ProgPow. So then we began working with some of the core developers on how can we create an effective debate platform that allows the core developers to get more insight into what the Ethereum community wants. So that was another tenet. We were frustrated with Twitter. We also saw the need to have better social sentiment signaling tools for the core developers. And then the third tenet is right now there's not a great reputation system for the Ethereum ecosystem. Yes, you can look at where people, what firms they work for, or how many followers on Twitter they have, but we don't think either of those are necessarily good proxies for how much insight or knowledge you have about the Ethereum ecosystem. So we wanted to build a place where you could earn non-transferable tokenized reputation that proves effectively that you're very knowledgeable about DeFi or core developers or validators, etc. And you can prove to other people, hey, I know what I'm talking about through this reputation system. So that's the third tenet of why we created the Ether.
That's very nice. And I like I've said it 1,000 times and I'm going to keep saying it. I love the design of your platform.
Thank you. Our designer's a genius. And he's actually, he is a print designer, or he's a print artist. He's an artist, and he usually doesn't do UI design. But I saw some of his prints on one of these design sites, and I reached out to him and said, I really love your work. We're trying to build this platform, and your type of work is exactly in line of what we're thinking about for the UI. What do you think about trying it out? And he's been terrific since the beginning.
Yes, I think it's an eye catcher. Like if someone wants to give it a try and take a look at the Ether, it just hooks them up, and like they want to learn more. This is really nice, and they want to use it, and then I want to have a profile just to be in there.
The craziest part is he did the initial design in maybe a week and a half. It was crazy.
Yeah.
I guess Adam wants to.
Yeah. Well, I it seems like we might already be in the question and answer section. So I have a question. So my first view of the Ether it reminded me of Kialo, if anyone's familiar with that platform. And so my question is, what are some of the things that the Ether is doing better or plans to do better than Kialo, or maybe the flip side is there actually some inspiration coming from that?
Absolutely. So we are inspired by Kialo for sure. There's a couple of issues that we have when I use Kialo. I find Kialo very difficult to use. I find it very complex. I find it very hard to navigate between the different debates. I find it hard to navigate between the different arguments. And so one of the things that we did, and we're actually going to roll out a V2 that's going to even improve upon this based on some of the suggestions that users such as Remy have made in the past, and I'm pretty sure Phillips also mentioned some of these as well that we're integrating to make a more productive debate experience specifically for the Ethereum community. So it's very targeted as well. Kialo is a generalized, more broader form platform. We're really targeted on the Ethereum community. And the third aspect, or really the 3 and 4, is the reputation system we have of effectively, as you debate certain topics, such as DeFi related topics or core developer related topics, you'll earn reputation that you can then show to other people saying, hey, I have a knowledge set within this specific area. And Kialo doesn't really allow for you to show that expertise within a specific subject area, and specifically to own that expertise and take it with you to other applications like we're working on for the Ether. We're also focused, debate's going to be a very core component. It's definitely our bread and butter. We want to be a larger educational platform and access point for people who want to learn more about the Ethereum ecosystem, and where they can ask questions and in general maybe learn through a wiki, etc., via our platform. So we're just very focused on the Ethereum community.
Do you see yourself like expanding out into other communities, like maybe longer term, or like what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, so our core focus right now is the Ethereum community and building, I think there's plenty on our plate there to really, educate people about the platform, build out this reputation system. In the future, we might expand to other areas. It's not necessarily other blockchain networks that we're thinking about, but maybe other kind of secular industries that would be interested in this sort of kind of social platform.
would it still be the Ether, or would you like white label it?
Yep, it wouldn't. So it wouldn't be on the ether.io for that. It would be effectively another website that's very much structured like the ether.io. And effectively, there's going to be like this Ethereum reputation system, and then there would be another reputation system for this other industry, right? That's tailored towards that industry. And then those reputation systems could end up flowing into a larger sort of reputation system. So that's how we're thinking about it. But we're probably at least 2 years away from really moving beyond the Ethereum ecosystem.
Got it. When you talk about summing up, it reminds me of the structure of how Colony does sort of reputation. And you earn it at the lower levels, but that sums up to the higher levels, where there's more different people that would have some experience, but not drilled down into the different categories. Cool.
So would like topics around like XDAI or Matic as like scaling solutions of Ethereum like be considered inside the scope of the Ether?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so like where would the line then be drawn if like you're talking about a project only on those platforms? Does that kind of like get excluded from the conversation, or?
We're not trying to set rules for users. We're trying to set general guidelines or boundaries. It's really we're very laid back, and we're going to let the users take it where they want to take it. So we're not trying to create too much structure. What we're trying to do is, if you know about these kind of scaling solutions, and debate other people on them, and other people agree with your arguments, or you answer a bunch of questions on them, and people are like, wow, that's a really strong answer. They know what they're talking about. You should be able to earn some sort of reputation that says, hey, I, Joran, understand these scaling solutions at a very high level. Because right now it gets lost, and it's one of my least favorite things about crypto is we really use Twitter followers as a proxy for knowledge. And I don't think it's a really good proxy for knowledge or insight by any means. I think it's more a proxy for entertainment or how much outrage you can generate sometimes, and for these other factors that just aren't really correlated with knowledge.
Yeah. Twitter is a specific skill set.
Yep.
And not being good at, like, I spent a lot of time reading Twitter. I suck at writing Twitter. I don't know how to do it. So Mattison, when you were talking about, like the side chains, to me, like side chains totally belong there, and like a project like OneHive that was only on XDAI, it totally still belongs there, because it's sort of in the Ethereum world. I wonder, there was a time when the internet was a small enough thing that like you could imagine like a website like the Ether being about the internet. Not that it would have been a website back then, but now like the internet is so big. I mean, Ethereum might be that big in a future world. So it's like, well, when does it stop belonging on the Ether? But that's a good problem to have in the future.
Great problem. In that scenario, we would expand the Ether. So instead of if that happens, and we believe it will happen, just a matter of time in our opinion, but if that happens sooner than we expect, we'll focus on expanding the sort of reputation system of the Ether and continue to like expand it out. One of the things that I think is problematic with the current internet today, I think that would be very beneficial, is actually a reputation system that exists across the internet, right? There's no reason why if you earn followers on Twitter, you shouldn't be able to take those followers or that representation of those followers with you to another application on the internet, right? It shouldn't be so siloed off and locked into only the Twitter social media platform. So if they deplatform you, all that work that you've done is effectively lost. And so we really do believe that there should be a sort of macro reputation system that exists to kind of show your knowledge or insight, or how funny you are. We're not getting into how funny you are. That's not our business, but something like that that travels with you.
Would that be like? Sorry. It sounds like that would be like a conglomerate of a bunch of different systems feeding into this overall score. Is that your vision for it, or do you think that?
Right. And the key is working with us not being the one, and we're getting farther down the line of where we're going to go, but working with other entities in order to determine that system.
So I have a question. You and I have talked about my experience on the Ether, that I have some difficulty finding the right way to interact. Let's say that I'm a new user and today I'm like, hey, I want to check out the Ether. One of the things that sort of isn't there is a prompt that tells you this is how you might interact. So if it's my first day on the Ether, what would I really do if I wanted to develop XP there? How would I get that started?
Yeah, so the first step, and we could definitely improve upon this, like even, driving new kind of users and new viewers to the site to this, would be to go to the how to play page. And Derek's created this, we have it written out in text on how you can earn XP, but if maybe you're not interested in reading, Derek's created this excellent video that's posted on that page that will walk through the key ways you can earn XP and the purpose of the platform.
Awesome, thank you.
So I have this question here for you, Mattison. How do you see this reputation that people are gonna accumulate there on the Ether being used in the future, like in the next few months? Do you see this being used as part of a job interview, or do you see this being used as a proxy for maybe a crypto project's governance, where people would maybe they would delegate their votes to people that are knowledgeable or something like this?
You're thinking along the exact same lines we are. So we're not going to be in the business. Yes, we can help people formulate ways that they could use it, but we're creating it in such a way that, you could have a conference where only people, and I mean, I'm not an exclusionary person, so it's not something I would do, but if someone only wanted DeFi experts to attend that conference, you could require them to have a certain amount of DeFi XP in order to enter. If you wanted to have an alternative governance system that wasn't based on one coin, one vote, that wasn't really trying to be about plutocracy or whale-driven activity, and you wanted it to be based off of reputation, you could use the reputation system for the Ether maybe to influence or craft how those people would be contributors within that governance infrastructure. So there's and for the jobs, this is one of the inspirations that for me personally, I don't think one of the things that really I don't think the greatest thing is that in the job market, and it makes sense from a recruiter's perspective or for anyone else, there's a lot of judgment placed on the brand name of the firm you worked for, regardless of what work you did or you as an individual. And people do that because they don't have time to evaluate someone's expertise, or they don't really want to spend the resources to think about it too much. And I don't think necessarily the brand name of a firm or how many Twitter followers you have should be like the one or two or three proxies that someone who's evaluating another person goes to say this person's knowledgeable. So we want to create a better system to allow people to prove their knowledge or insight that exists well beyond things like this prestige of where you went to school or what firm you worked for and the existing social metrics we have today.
Nice.
I do have a question sort of extending off of that reputation and the XP. So we have two really good examples here. One, the one you just gave, Mattison, of the conference, where if I want to attract and solicit a certain audience, I want to make sure that they have that minimum threshold of knowledge, that this is a great use case for that. But also, I think you were the one that mentioned it too, where it would be really cool to have some sort of system in place where if I get shadow banned or I want to move to a different social media platform, I should be able to pick up all of the things that I've, accumulated and move it over into that other platform. Do you see a future with the Ether in the sense that maybe you're using like a MetaMask integration where you can have a full wallet connected to that, where you can start manipulating that data and moving it and sort of decentralizing?
Absolutely, that's exactly where we're going. And in fact, we're going to probably roll out the MetaMask integration. It's on our beta right now, so we're still testing it out. But I think we're going to roll that out for users in about a week or two. And similar, the reputation system itself, the first version of that should be available, I would think, definitely by the end of January, most likely closer to the middle of January.
Awesome, love it.
That's what we've been working on, the most.
It's really awesome to have this kind of grassroots user-owned kind of reputation system rather than one that is kind of government down, because we can all read the writing on the wall that in the future governments will impose these I don't know, tracking systems, I guess is the only fair way I can imagine it. But doing something from the grassroots that gives people the control to choose to give or take or leave or combine these reputation systems seems like such a strong value proposition that puts people in control rather than someone else in control of our data.
That's
exactly. That's the future.
And it's great. It's one of the key reasons why we integrated with BrightID. We see this on Twitter all the time. There are tons of bots on Twitter that hijack the conversation and influence the sentiment of where it goes. It happens in U.S. politics. It happens even in crypto. You see it. And one of the key reasons we want to integrate with BrightID is we're building this sort of knowledge proxy reputation system, but we weren't really focused on, okay, we need to make sure that it's one person that's really participating in these conversations. Let's say there's a controversial debate. You don't want someone effectively Sybil attacking the debate by creating a bunch of accounts and hijacking the conversation. So the BrightID integration has been wonderful for us because now it allows our users to create BrightID claims, which are effectively hosting debates that only BrightID members can participate in, which have a much higher confidence interval that the people participating in those debates are individuals. They're real human beings. They aren't, sock puppets, etc.
Mattison, can you see people's BrightID status outside of those specific BrightID debates?
Yes. So if you go to, I for example have linked my BrightID account, or I'm BrightID verified, and I linked that to the Ether account.
Me too.
My profile. And you can actually see it in multiple places. You'll see the BrightID, icon next to my name.
Okay.
I even think if you highlight over my avatar icon, when I'm, let's say I made an argument and you have my avatar icon there and you hover over it, it'll show the BrightID symbol there. It'd be great. We really want there to be more and more BrightID verified members because we want the Ether to be the place to hold controversial debates. And this brings me to another point. Where are these debates happening now? So these debates are happening on Twitter. We went over the issues with Twitter. These debates are also actually happening specifically within DeFi, since they have different DeFi projects face a lot of governance issues more consistently. They happen mostly via this platform called Discourse. And what Discourse is, it's a forum system that's actually being operated by the projects, the team members themselves, the founders of the projects, of these decentralized, projects. So like Uniswap will operate their Discourse. For Compound, it's actually their venture capital backers are the ones who operate their Discourse where these governance discussions happen. And what ends up happening is that a lot of the time we found a lot of evidence that there's moderation, there's banning, there's removal of content from users who are posting things the teams or the venture capital backers disagree with. So that's another issue of this being, this conflict that's starting to arise on. It's really important to have really good and clean and independent social debate platforms for the discussions regarding governance to happen. And it's even happened further on the snapshot voting level. So a lot of these governance systems are using snapshot as proxies for actual how proposals are passed within their systems. But once again, if I, as a project, have a snapshot space, I can actually pick and choose and remove votes that I don't want users to be able to vote on. And there's instances of this actually happening. So we're really trying to also avoid and increase decentralization within, especially the DeFi space, because that's where it's very heavily needed. That was a lot. I apologize if I.
So we have a question for. Sorry.
Yeah, I was just doing exactly the same thing that you wanted to. So
go
please
for it.
go ahead.
No, go for it.
No, please. It's a cultural thing from Persia and Iran. We just you go. You for you to go. So go on, Carlos, please.
It's a question from Jorin. If you want to read it, if not, well, I'm going to just read it for the people who probably are going to watch this video. So Jorin asked, I was going to ask about any possibility, any possible collaboration with Rabbit Hole. They are doing great things to help onboard people to different platforms through incentivization. I will watch the replay. Okay, he will watch the replay to see your answer. So I'm sorry. Thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very open to integrating and working with anyone within the ecosystem. We are, in fact, we love collaborating. We obviously loved collaborating and continue to love collaborating with BrightID. We're very open-minded to partnering and working with other ecosystem players because I think we're all trying to accomplish the same thing of educating new users about the ecosystem, and then driving them to learn more about these platforms, these applications, so they can become really productive long-term participants.
Mattison, I don't know how much you've dug into Rabbit Hole, but I've talked to them a bunch. One of the things, right now, sort of the idea is, hey, get brand new people onto platforms and incentivize that action. But in the longer term vision for Rabbit Hole, you can also go on sort of deeper and more complicated quests and activities that you've done. It's like, you can tell a user can sort of prove that they've done, hundreds of DeFi transactions, and they've jumped through all these different hoops and used all these different protocols. And it certainly seems relatable to, here's the knowledge that you have in writing, and here's the proof you actually did the on-chain transactions without, and I bet you could do it in such a way that someone can't go see the transactions you did. There's just proof that, yeah, you did them.
Absolutely. I think that would be like that idea right there makes all the sense in the world to me. We're thinking along those same lines, but honestly, we're very focused on the content side versus the on-chain action side. And so partnering with someone like Rabbit Hole would make all the sense in the world to us, because then we could effectively divide and conquer and track this information and attribute reputation towards it.
Yeah. If you haven't spoken to Brian, I recommend it. And if you need an intro, I'm happy to give you one.
Thank you.
I'm seeing the common thread here between all of these systems is people want to not only engage with an environment or with an ecosystem, but they want some kind of documentation that they actually engaged. And so that for me is POAP, like it's that proof that I engaged. It's XP when it comes to the Ether. So with BrightID, it's, the verification and the connecting with people. Like, we don't want to just float through these ecosystems. We want evidence in our profile that we are actually a part of it, which just something that it's becoming a new paradigm for me.
Yeah, and we absolutely love what POAP has done. And, obviously you get a badge for participating in this event. We think that's brilliant as well. POAP is another excellent example of someone we'd love to partner with.
Well, I definitely want the POAP badge designed by your designer. So let's make that happen.
Our XP badges, our XP representation has been designed by our designer.
Oh,
he's on.
When we design future POAPs for these, we should include the logo of the thing, like of the presenter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. I was looking at my POAPs and I was thinking,
yeah,
two of these look very similar.
Yeah,
it'd
I want
be cool if there was something
like
to
have the
differentiate.
BrightID logo and the Ether logo.
Yeah,
logo
nice
and
idea.
the One Hive logo.
Yeah, we'll make that happen. I think Doma is going to do a great job with that. Yeah.
So I've actually been talking with Michael about a kind of POAP designer marketplace, because that POAP image is, regardless of how much you loved the event, your reflections of that event are very much linked to that image, and you really want something that is very high quality. I don't know, Michael, if you want to, and I don't know if I'm plugging or not, but I don't know if you've taken that idea anywhere.
Yeah, it's still on the design floor. We are, not to go out too much of a tangent here, trying to work out all the bugs yet on the Ethereum Study Master, and I think that's definitely in the same realm. I think that we're talking about where we want to educate people that are motivated and self-motivated to educate themselves, but don't have the means to wade through all of the noise that sort of these new emerging systems are generating, but also to have to prove that after they have accomplished sort of the said goal that they can, right? There's some sort of digital proof that allows them to prove that. So with that, with all of these POAP enabled, whether this community calls or whatever, there's definitely a need to want both design diversity and also the convenience, right? So you sort of have to know someone that knows someone that can do these designs, and that layer of abstraction we're trying to get rid of by having a platform where, one, you can go out and just hire a specific POAP designer, but then also maybe we have it splinters off into maybe there are pre-done themes that you can just sort of pull off the shelf and make your own. So we're trying to find out what the market needs are there and get the system up and running, but that's kind of what we're thinking.
Cool. Thank you.
Hey, oh, sorry. But someone else was going to talk. Who was going to say something? Was okay. Anyways, no, I just wanted to ask Poslar, do you think we have time for one or two BrightID questions? I know this group here, they seem like they are already very knowledgeable about BrightID, so there may not be any questions, but just in case someone had just a question about BrightID.
It's perfectly fine to have questions about it. We still have like about 15 minutes.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, feel free to ask about BrightID. This is the best time to ask about BrightID because we have the algorithm designer here with us. The anti-Sybil guy is here. Mohsen is here. We have the founder and the co-founders. We have the front-end people. We have the BrightID stars. So this is the perfect time to ask about BrightID.
Okay, so I've noticed a few recent updates to the BrightID app. So I've noticed that now you can like qualify your relationship with someone else. How is this new qualification being used?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And I think the most important thing that we wanted to learn from this is to study users and make sure that they're using it, I guess you could say correctly, but using it in a way that we as the algorithm designers can then use. Because if we find that people aren't, so we've been studying how people are actually using it. And we think that, just from our observations of users, that they are using it, they're doing a very good job of using it in a way that's useful to us. So they're actually making that distinction between people they already know and the people they just met, and they're doing that accurately. And so then how will we be able to use that? So one of the things that's one of the other labels that's beyond those three is a label called recovery. And that is the people that you trust enough to basically be the guardians of your BrightID identifier. And so they could collude together and steal your BrightID from you if you chose the wrong recovery connections. But if you choose people that you really trust, then you're in a good position to recover your BrightID in the future if something really bad happens, like someone steals it from you. So what we want to do with that now is take that. We've got the already know. You've got the recovery connections that people can set up. We want to take that, help guide users to the next step, which is because at the beginning people were kind of just choosing any old recovery connection because they go to a BrightID like connection party and they'd meet a bunch of people that they didn't know before, and then they would choose, like maybe they would choose a BrightID star, like someone that was at the meeting that kind of seemed like they were trustworthy to be their recovery connection, and that's not really ideal. So what we want to move towards is you bring your, like, the people from the outside that you really trust. For instance, for me, that's my sister and other close family members. You get those people to be your recovery connections, and you understand the importance of that they're actually the guardians of your BrightID. And so by doing that, it does some interesting things. It expands your circle outside of the people that you just saw at that connection party, and it also adds this higher level of trust. You get even more trusted connections than the already know. So if we can get people to do that correctly, even just that small number of connections, even if you just have 3, 4, 5 connections of people that you know really, really well, that's a basis for a really high quality graph. And we can, our graph analysis becomes much more reliable when we have that. So we started out as kind of like the easy, get to know you just find some people that are already trying to use BrightID. It doesn't, they don't have to be people you already know. And that'll get you like this base level 0 verification. And now that we see that people are starting to use the already know correctly, and hopefully soon using the recovery connections correctly, then we can move to these higher levels. So something like the Ether can come and say, hey, we've upped our qualification, or they can use different levels. They can say, okay, this poll, this is open to, this discussion is open to people with BrightID verification level 0. This discussion is open to people with BrightID verification level 1, or something like that. And other apps can do the same. With the end goal being that we want to have algorithms that can be reliable enough to give a really high probability that this person only exists once, so that you could use it for something like giving out government aid or universal basic income. That's the level that we want to eventually reach. So we're kind of just upping the level of the different kinds of connections that people can do. I hope that sort of answers the question, Remy. Is there any more specific parts of that you want to know?
I mean, you brought so many things there that I could have asked like maybe 10 or 20 more questions, but like is there a next phase where people are just going to be able to like get started with their own personal friends or like their own personal groups and eventually get verified, and then maybe they'll be able to link eventually with someone else that is already part of the group or already part of the graph? So what's the transition there?
Yeah. So right now, because there have been some people that see what we're doing at the connection parties, and they're like, I don't like this. Like, I don't want to like rely on people that I don't really know, and I don't want to be making connections with them. And so I tell them, okay, there is another way, and it's the slow way. You're not going to get verified today if you do the slow way, probably. But the slow way is that you make connections, find the people, like prioritize from the people that you know the best, rather than just the people who are already in BrightID. Prioritize from the people that you already know the best, bring them into BrightID, have them do the same, and you will get verified. You'll get verified on a higher level, but it will take longer. So there's this trade-off. And right now, we didn't even plan it this way, actually. It just kind of happened this way. That because at the old days, we had something kind of like connection parties, but it was more like this. It was more like this intimate setting where it was just this regular call, and we would have regular folks showing up that we would see week after week, and we would make connections to each other. And so it felt much more like a community than not like a one-time thing. You show up and you get the thing you were coming for, and then you leave, which is kind of what the connection parties feels like now. So I think eventually what will happen is you'll start seeing more communities. There's a seed program that we're trying to cultivate, which is you create your own meeting space for people to find you. So the Ether, if it has its own community, like a call like this, for instance, could say, hey, it could be before, it could be after, it could be just getting those same people together to make BrightID connections somehow. And that community making experience is a more natural way than a connection party with people that you don't know. Yeah, go ahead, Philip.
I would just say that the connection parties is a shortcut right now, because you need to connect somehow to the existing graph. Because like, if your 20 friends all connect to each other, you can't get verified until you have some connection to the main graph. And the parties are just a way that anybody in the world can come get at least a tangential connection to the graph in a really easy way that's offered multiple times a day in multiple languages. It'll be when there's already lots of people on BrightID, then it's not hard to find someone on BrightID so you can get that connection to the main graph. Right now, we're just saying, hey, here's a place. And I hope there are other things like connection parties. I've thought of, imagine sort of like a sponsored connection party, where it's like, hey, you're going to come here, you're going to make some connections, and that's going to help you get BrightID. And it's going to be sponsored by some entity that's going to present a 2-minute presentation on whatever topic in the world they want to talk to people about. Like that could be a toothpaste ad, or it could be, astrophysics demonstration. It could be political mumbo jumbo. It could be anything. It's just like, hey, you will have 20 people and their attention for 2 minutes.
Yeah, but luckily, if there's enough of those, you get to choose something that you're actually interested in. You're like,
Yeah.
oh, I have to go watch a toothpaste. It's more like, no, I want to go learn about astrophysics, and I'm going to connect with some cool people.
Super, you got something?
I could see that being like a great bridge for like the Meet Us platform, where you're meeting with physical people, normally strangers if you're new to that entity, and then as you get to build those relationships, you're making those same connections on BrightID. I could see that too.
And I want there to be games where like you come together. I don't know if any of you have played the game Among Us. These characters try to run around, and 1 or 2 people are trying to kill all the other people in this game. So imagine it's like you come into a BrightID. It's a meeting like this. You know for a fact that at least one of the people is a cheater, and they've got an economic incentive to try to beat the rest of you, and it's the rest of y'all's job to figure out who the bad actor is.
It might be fun to get together and set something like that up. I'm a little interested, and I believe that Michael would be too. So maybe we should let's and I bet I'm seeing a lot of people that I think would be. So maybe can we talk maybe like the first week of January about just playing that kind of game? And it's gonna flop, and that's okay. It's still fun. I did have one question. Can we? I will forget, but I would love for someone to help me make a note. That would be a fun thing to do the first week of January. I have a question about this recovery, or person identified as recovery. Is that like a multi-sig, or does it give that one person total control? Because there are people who I know and I like, but
it's right now it's a 2 of X multi-sig, which we should expand. So it's a minimum 2 of 3. It can be 2 of X or 2 of N. And we should certainly expand that for people that want the greater security to be a 3 of, 4 of, 5 of, whatever. Like at this point, I would prefer to use a higher number than 2, because my BrightID is important to me. And I have plenty of really strong connections, but I wouldn't have a hard time finding the people. For someone new, 2 of 3 is fine. But they should be able to upgrade that security.
With that being unclear, as I was selecting that, I'm like, well, I know Michael, I trust Michael, but would I want him to be the only person who could, hijack my ID? Or, but knowing that it's a 2 of X is perfect. That provides a lot of depth to it.
Yeah, and there's no reason that it can't be 3 of, 4 of, 5 of in the future. Just not coded that way right now.
Hey, if I were to make a list of people who are interested in this 1st of January kind of Among Us game, who would be interested in?
I just created a reminder for myself to be there and to remind you all. Everyone is interested. Nice.
Yeah. A long time ago, we imagined one of the ways that you could sort of help with understanding the civils on the network is you could allow people to create new BrightIDs and mark them behind the scenes as civils in a way that it's only revealed when you go, hey, I want to turn in my account for some reward or whatever and prove how long it's been verified. And no one could know that it was a Sybil until you go, haha, look, it was a Sybil and I can prove it. Because it's a funny thing. Right now, proving that you have a Sybil is not actually easy. So it's like easier if you can pre-register it as a Sybil without telling anybody, and then you can definitively prove it later. But not that, the real attackers might not mark theirs, but you can understand how effective attacks are by the people that do mark theirs.
Oh, it looks like Mattison had to go before we had a chance to thank him. We probably should have done that before we switched over to BrightID questions, but that was a really good presentation by Mattison. I'd like to thank him even though he's not here.
Yeah,
I'll let him know. Don't worry.
And before we lose anyone else,
Thank you.
we should make a really high level little set of connections right now, because this is
Oh yeah, happy to do that. Sure.
Solid group.
Cool.
So
Who's gonna host it? Do you want me to host it?
so
yes.
I
don't
know and
maybe.
see all of you except Bitsika. I've been seeing that person show up in conversations, but I don't know you yet.
I've met him in a verification party.
Mhm.
I have absolutely no idea which person
Yeah.
he was, but
Bitsika, if you're able
yeah.
to turn your video on, we'd love to make connections, and this is a really good group to connect with. Otherwise, we'll get you another time. But
yes. So
Thank
folks,
you, great Remy.
I'm gonna show my QR code and feel free to scan.
Okay. Thank you.
This is a very special QR code, specially designed for this call.
I'm really excited about the potential for social games like that. There's been
Hey
some.
guys,
oh, awesome! Hey, welcome, man.
I'm working on the status integration, so yeah, I've been quiet.
Nice. Now I've seen the
Perfectly
comments
fine.
in the Discord. That's really great.
Yeah,
And-
great.
Is there anyone who haven't got it yet?
I see
Cool.
10 people in here. Now I see 11.
Ah. If you
That's
see one more, we're good.
Yeah. So there are 13 people here.
Hey, front end people, I wish that on this screen where it's asking you to reconnect, that I could change from right here, I could change the connection level.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
'Cause,
I've
like,
seen that too. Because
So
I'm like,
I previously
upgrade.
met Michael one time before, and I marked him just met because that was appropriate then. But having had this additional time with him, I'm ready to move him up to already known, and I should be able to do it right here.
It's a good suggestion. Noted.
Nice. Yeah, because now I need to remember to go back to the connections and make the change.
Yeah.
I'm going to bring Superfizz now to already known.
Awesome.
Yes,
Remy as well.
that makes sense.
Oh,
I
and this is great. So this is just a great example of this is my Rashville connection. He has changed his name to add a little BrightID symbol, which is cool. But it's nice to see. All right, same picture. Okay, all he did was add the symbol, and obviously I think that's a cool thing to do. So I'm happy to update that connection. But that's really nice. I like that.
Michael didn't used to have a picture on his BrightID. Now he has one.
That might be on your end, Passler, when you lost it.
Because of that explosion.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Explosion is a nice word, yeah.
He had a
Yeah.
critical mass. It's kind of like it was a nuclear explosion. He got enough mass
Yes.
together and it just blew up his whole BrightID.
Hey, so I have another question about these groups. So I'm kind of in between two groups, the POEP group and the ETH Staker group. Let's say that, we do a call and, everyone essentially in the call is a part of both groups. But POEP is somehow identified as a seed group and ETH Staker is not identified as a seed group. Does it matter our intention would be after the calls now to hold the exact same thing we're doing now. Does it matter if we do that group QR for everyone based on one group, or should we do it for both groups? Or
Okay, so your POAP seed is a very different thing, and you should not be adding all those people to your POAP seed group. That POAP seed should really be
It's just us.
your core trusted people that you want representing, because if any of them are bad actors, your seed will suffer and eventually be removed. Now, when you just make this group connection, this many to many connection, that's not a BrightID group.
Got it. Okay, yeah, I understand now.
But you can have a ATH staker seed group as well. So please
Yes,
let us know. We can.
That does make sense to me now. So we would probably want to pursue that, and I didn't make the connection that those people aren't actually joining the group; they are just making a one-to-many with us.
Yeah, and at the beginning, groups were essential to how BrightID main algorithms worked. They're not really anymore. So it used to be everybody needed to join groups. At this point, you don't actually have to join any groups. We still need the group functionality because that's still how seeds work, but normal people don't need to join groups. Maybe in the future, we'll have other cool things you can do with groups, and also have more expansion definitions of what makes up a group. Right now, it's this very specific math of being connected to 50% plus one of the existing members and whatnot. In the future, we could have groups that are very different, where it's just like, hey, I want to be part of the Michael Bauer fan club. And I can just be part of that because Michael Bauer says I get to.
Well, and that's, when I introduced this to my local crypto crew, the first thing that we all did was set up groups. Like we wanted to be identified as, that local crypto group.
Yeah.
Even though there's obviously no power in it, it's that unifying concept that seemed neat to us at the time.
And also keep in mind that the algorithms that are going to be run in the future, who knows what they're going to be? Like, I'm really excited for when just random people in the community go, hey, I want to run an algorithm. Here are the various data points that exist for me to analyze. They're all on the public network. Just because we're not currently using groups doesn't mean they're not a really good thing to use. So we're not going to take them away.
Cool. Very exciting.
Folks, I think if we have any questions, let's go ahead and listen to them. Otherwise, the Spanish call is starting. It should have started 5 minutes ago, but thank you for coming.
Right? No, Mano's still here.
Mano is still here, yeah.
Paslar needs to open the room for me, so.
Oh, okay.
So we were going to stop recording now.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Forgot to do that.
And you guys can say
there you go. I just stopped recording.